Hello everyone and welcome to another video. In this video we'll be looking at how to configure the CM550 router as a VPN server using point-to-point tunneling protocol, so as a PPTP server. This configuration is also the same for the CM510 router. Before we begin, you'll want to make sure that your router has the latest firmware, since some of the older firmwares don't support PPTP. Okay, for the first step we need a public IP for our router. To get a public IP, you may need to ask your carrier to enable your SIM with a public IP. If your SIM is already set up with this, we can just change the APN. To do this, go to Basic Network and then to Cellular. And then since I'm only using SIM1, I'll just change the APN here. For Telstra, the APN for public IP is telstra.extranet. If you're with a different carrier, you'll have to use the relevant APN. Once you're done, click Save. Now with Telstra, this public IP address is dynamic, while for VPN we need a static one. So next we're going to configure dynamic DNS by going to DDNS under Basic Network. So you can see here under Dynamic DNS 1, I've already set up my DDNS by choosing my service, entering my username and password with that service, and then one of the host names that I've configured. Once you've set this up with your DDNS information, make sure you click Save at the bottom. To make sure we can access this router remotely, we'll also have to go to Administration, then to Admin Access. And here where it says Remote Access, change that from Disabled to HTTP. Change the access port to 80. And then scroll down and click Save. Next, we can configure our PPTP server settings. We're going to VPN Tunnel, and then to PPTP Server. Make sure you click Enable, and then you can configure your server however you'd like. For this demo, I'm going to leave these settings as their default values. And then at the bottom here, I'm going to add a new user. I'm going to make this something simple and easy to remember, but you can make this anything you'd like. When you're done with this, make sure you click Add, and then click Save. And then reboot the router so that the configuration is applied. So now my router has finished rebooting, I'm going to check that the DDNS works by disconnecting the Ethernet cable between my PC and the router, and then entering the host name into my browser. It might take a few minutes for your router to connect and for the DDNS to load properly, but once it does, you can just enter your username and password as usual. Okay, so my DDNS works and I've got PPTP set up. So now I can connect to it on my PC. I'll show you how to do this on Windows 7, but the process on Windows 10 is much simpler and straightforward. So on Windows 7, you go to the Network and Sharing Center, and then set up a new connection or network. Since I want a VPN connection, I'll go to Connect to Workplace, and then use my internet connection. Where it says Internet Address, I'm going to enter the host name. And I'm also going to rename it to PPTP. Then I'll also select Don't Connect Now. Next, I'll enter the username and password that I created for the server. I'll also click Remember this password. And then I'll close this window. Then to connect to this, I'll open up my available networks. And here we can see my VPN that I just created. I'm going to connect to this now and then go to Properties. Now under Options, I want to uncheck Include Windows Logon Domain. And then under Security, I'll choose the type of VPN, which is PPTP, and then I'll click OK and connect. So as I mentioned, this process is a little bit different on Windows 10. Instead, you go to Network and Internet Settings, then to VPN, and click Add a VPN connection. And then here you can fill out your VPN details and click Connect. Now to check that our VPN has been connected successfully, we can try to ping our router from our PC, which is the client. So with the Ethernet still disconnected between the router and the PC, open a command window, and then enter the command ping, followed by the LAN IP of your router, which in my case is 192.168.1.1. then we should have 4 packets successfully sent and received between our PPTP client and server. We can test it further by connecting another device directly to the router. So I have a separate device connected to the Wi-Fi. Now I'm going to ping this device by typing ping, and then the IP address which I looked up, which is 192.168.1.46. And then once again, we've successfully got 4 packets sent and received between my PC and my device connected to my router. Okay, that is all for this video. We've covered how to configure the CM550 and CM510 routers as PPTP servers, as well as how to test it. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next video.